Welcome to this Cronkite News Special Edition. I'm Amber Kawaji. Thanks for joining us. Cronkite News is not only the second largest news organization in the state, we are the only news agency in Arizona with a permanent news bureau in the nation's capital. Tonight, a compilation of stories from our reporters based in Washington, D.C. Protesters were outside of the Supreme Court today battling over whether faith-based groups need to provide birth control for women under their health care plans. Reporter Sammy Witherwax talked to protesters on both sides to find out why they're so passionate.
The music ranged from gospel to gaga, which was fitting as that's pretty much where the opinion stood. It was a crowd full of diversity, and I talked to some Arizona natives about their stance on this controversial issue.
We're just saying, let us be, okay?
Not the church, not the state. We deserve to decide our fate.
There was a lot of disagreement on the steps of the Supreme Court today as the court considered whether or not religious groups should be required to provide contraceptives to their employees.
In our country, all Americans should be free to live and operate peacefully according to their beliefs without threat of government punishment. But unfortunately, today, the Supreme Court, this very American principle is being called into question.
Birth control is here to stay. Happy birthday, ACA.
Phoenix resident Betsy Bervin came by the rally and said that having a different religion as your employer should not affect the health care that one's entitled to.
Everybody has their rights, everybody has their opinions, but we live in a country where your religion and your state is supposed to be separate.
Bervin was among many who believed in our country's freedom of choice.
I don't think that anybody, including the government, should be able to tell me what I'm a woman is allowed to do with my body.
Matt Emery, a Tucson resident, agreed and said that as a man, it's nice to know that women have the right to choose.
You know, it's their body and their children. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're against children, but choosing when they are ready to have their children.
However, Sister Veronica Susan with Little Sisters of the Poor said she doesn't know why the government is forcing institutions of faith and women of faith to violate their beliefs.
We would like to see that the government would uphold our religious liberty by allowing us to be free of any other constraints on our insurance provider for our employees.
Now, the court could be divided 4-4, but we are expecting an answer by this summer. Live in Washington, Samantha Witherwax, Cronkite News.
A Navajo Nation lawmaker proposed creating a tribal holiday to honor tribal chairmen and presidents. Davis Filfred wants the third Friday in March to be called Navajo President's Day. Tribal employees would receive a paid day off. The Navajo Nation currently observes 13 federal and tribal holidays that fall in every month except March.
2,000 miles from home, natives of Arizona's Navajo Nation work and live in the nation's capital. Cronkite News reporter Katie Bieri learned how they celebrate their culture in a city of concrete.
So are we happy to be here? Yeah.
For natives of Arizona's Navajo Nation, home will always be the Grand Canyon State.
We try and go back to Arizona as much as we can. It's really important for us to teach Evan about where he comes from.
That's why these Navajo natives insist on celebrating their culture in a city of concrete. Brassi's husband Jackson is the executive director of Washington, D.C.'s Navajo Nation office.
Washington, D.C. is so much different than the rest of Arizona, than the Navajo Nation. It's really great for us that are really away from our home communities.
So, to avoid forgetting their culture, they're teaching the younger generation traditional crafts and activities.
I didn't know there was so many people out in D.C.
Like piecing together these traditional hair ties.
This is the finished product called a tsiyesh. Your strands of hair are like thoughts. So if you let them just fall out, then your mind kind of runs wild.
Dozens proved that home knows no boundaries, and a nation's reach can span beyond borders. In Washington, Katie Bieri, Cronkite News.
Today, the House is not backing down over a new policy that requires journalists to comply with background checks.
More than a dozen journalists refused on Thursday and were forced to cover the day's agenda from the gallery. Cronkite News reporter Katie Bieri joins us with the Washington perspective.
Now this issue has spilled over to Washington. Several organizations that champion freedom of the press and the First Amendment are questioning whether this new policy is warranted.
We've seen a lot of different state legislatures enact provisions to put barriers in the way of journalists.
Melissa Yeager writes for the Sunlight Foundation, a group that champions free speech and government transparency. Yeager was troubled by Arizona's move.
You know, certainly we have the fourth estate in the United States, and I think it's a value that we have as Americans to have a free press that holds our leaders accountable. And when you have people making laws to restrict that, that's concerning.
On Thursday, a House divided.
Why are we here on the floor without our window to the public?
When we shut the press out, we shut people out.
Our protection here on this floor is the utmost. It's a paramount to me.
Things escalate, incidents escalate throughout, not only throughout the years, but just this session as well.
This is some kind of.
Let Mr. Thorpe speak, please.
They're sitting up there not because of what they've written. They're sitting up there because of what they have not written, which is their driver's license.
Jeff Herbst is CEO of the museum in Washington, D.C. He emphasized the need to make politicians as accessible to the public as possible.
I think what people want across the country is to be informed as possible about what their legislators are doing, what their legislators are thinking, how the process is going. And this new regulation seems to put new barriers between legislators and the press.
But it's not just Washington that's reacting this week. Over the weekend, the Arizona First Amendment Coalition released this letter stating that if the new policy is not addressed, they could threaten legal action. In Washington, Katie Berry, Cronkite News.
Childhood homelessness is a big problem in the U.S. that many people don't know about. Cronkite News reporter Samantha Witherwax in the Washington Bureau spoke to one Phoenix-based shelter that's trying to bring some light to the issue.
Cresta Horn with UMOM came to Washington today to talk with staffers about the importance of prioritizing young homeless children.
We don't start with meeting the needs of the littlest ones. We're not truly helping to break the cycle of homelessness.
Horn is the director of Children and Youth Services for UMOM, a Phoenix-based homeless shelter for families. She said that most people don't think about kids when they think about homelessness, and fewer think about the littlest kids.
From the age of infants, 0, all the way up to 17-year-olds, we had 454 kids on campus. And from, like what Linda was saying, that birth to 5, we have 262 children 5 and under.
Linda Smith, an official with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, says that these young years are critical. She says that this is the population that needs attention if we ever want to make a change.
Well, I think that particularly it really is important that we look at the birth to 5 population in this community. These years are just so formative for our children, and having a baby, an infant, a toddler in a shelter is really sad for this country. I think we can do so much better than that.
Horn said that one great thing happening in Phoenix is that shelters are now working together with a family housing hub, which is intended to make placing families in available housing much easier.
So this family housing hub is a great way to facilitate getting families into a place, whether shelter, whether into permanent housing immediately, quicker. And also it's a way that the community is starting to come together and have cohesiveness, and I think that's dynamite.
Both women said that they were confident that today's discussion went well, and they are optimistic for the future. Reporting from the Capitol, Samantha Witherwax, Cronkite News.
In Washington today, more big demands, this time from protesters angry about the influence of big money in politics.
Cronkite News reporter Wafa Shawhead was there to talk with protesters, including one who came all the way from Tucson to make his voice heard.
Thousands of activists are continuing a 7-day protest which began yesterday at the Capitol. They marched here from Philadelphia, and some came from even farther away.
I'm here to save our democracy.
He was part of the lively crowd that gathered outside the steps of the Capitol to protest the role of money in politics. The Democracy Spring rally began 10 days ago at the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, where they began their march all the way to the Capitol at Washington, D.C.
Money is overwhelming the popular vote. It's very frightening, and we've got to stop it.
The message was clear: reclaim democracy and take big money out of politics.
One vote can represent one person individually, and not multiple votes and more power representing people with more money.
Many activists were arrested, but this didn't stop the masses from singing and dancing for the cause. The protesters are planning mass nonviolent sit-ins and protests at the Capitol for the next week, according to the Democracy Spring website. Reporting live in Washington, I'm Wafa Shahid, Cronkite News.
Their proposal sparked quick reactions, including one from President Obama, saying the proposal is not the first time he's heard, quote, draconian policies on immigration. Cronkite News is covering all sides of this issue. Our Washington, D.C. bureau reporter Samantha Witherwax is live with the latest on the reaction to the recent proposal.
In a press conference today, President Barack Obama was asked about the GOP frontrunner's plan to make Mexico pay for a multi-billion-dollar wall along the border. He quickly responded with a chuckle, followed by, "Good luck with that."
We just talked about the difficulties of trying to enforce huge outflows of capital. The notion that we're going to track every Western Union, bit of money that's being sent to Mexico, good luck with that.
Obama wasn't the only one in Washington who thought Trump's plan was not enforceable. Think tanks on opposite sides of the aisle said that Trump's plan will only lead to immigrants finding other methods to send money home.
If they were to block these money transfers, almost immediately, Mexicans would figure out other ways to get their money home. So they would use black markets. They would transfer their funds to third parties in other countries that would then transfer them to Mexico.
Aaron Klein with the Brookings Institution, a private nonprofit, said that the plan could ultimately threaten national security.
You create an unsafe environment here in the United States, and you also impede the ability of the United States government to track and go after money launderers or terrorist financing organizations.
Now, we reached out to some of the groups that would be directly affected by the policy, including Western Union, PayPal, and the Mexican Embassy, but nobody returned our phone calls immediately. Live in Washington, Samantha Witherwax, Cronkite News.
A new study suggests business owners from across the country may want to set sights on Arizona. Lauren Clark in our Washington bureau tells us why our state is such a business haven.
The American Legislative Exchange, in its annual study, cites lower taxes, fewer regulations, and right-to-work laws. All reasons, Jonathan Williams says.
Arizona did rank 5th this year in the Rich States, Poor States study.
One reason for this, says Williams, is state lawmakers' reluctance to pass regulations, making it much easier to conduct businesses in Arizona than elsewhere.
If they were to follow the Arizona formula, California would probably be in much better shape than they have for the last decade.
But this formula isn't convincing for Ross Eisenbray at the Economic Policy Institute. He argues the term economic freedom is ironic.
Whose freedom are we talking about? The freedom to be safe from being killed in an industrial accident, the freedom of people, school children, not to be poisoned.
Eisenbray says just because these laissez-faire policies are enticing to businesses doesn't mean it's good for everyone.
It's not good for working people, and there are a lot more working people than there are business owners.
But Williams points to what business people can provide: plenty of revenue and jobs.
Because where do you think at the end of the day those dollars are going to come from? They're going to come from the private sector, whether it's an individual or a business.
Reporting in Washington, Lauren Clark, Cronkite News.
Arizona is open for business, but 2/3 of jobs created today require post-high school education. A new report by the Lumina Foundation says that doesn't necessarily mean a degree, though. Reporter Maricela Ramirez is in Washington with the details.
Chris Bustamante of Rio Salado Community College isn't worried only 2/3 of community college students receive a degree. He said at a panel discussion that the other third receive certificates in high-paying industries like IT, nuclear generating facilities, and healthcare.
Over 70% of all of the nurses in Arizona come from the community colleges or are trained in the community colleges. And then there are all other kinds of professions and certifications within healthcare that provide a lot of flexibility for workers and also higher wage jobs.
Arizona's achievement rate remains average compared to the states, but it was reported the Phoenix area had the nation's 4th lowest number of adults with college degrees in a metro region. Bustamante says that adults that fall into the some college category could be the reason.
I think we have over 900,000 people with some college credits, and no degrees. So we've got to reach out to more of those adult learners who dropped out of college to try to get them back into college.
Bustamante said he believes Arizona can reach a 60% rate of secondary education among Americans and that community colleges take all comers looking to further their secondary education.
And I think we can get there if we're really creative about getting into the communities and partnering more with our industries to create more of these certificate programs that lead not only to certificates but to degree attainment as well.
The Lumina report says the state has more to do than just improve the overall attainment rate. It has to close the gaps in attainment by race and ethnicity too. Reporting in Washington, Maricela Ramirez, Cronkite News.
The problems of outdated water systems made headlines recently when lead-tainted water was discovered in Flint, Michigan.
But those problems are felt in cities across the country, as a Senate panel in Washington learned today. Cronkite News reporter in Washington, Katie Bury, talked to an Arizona official who was in the nation's capital for the hearing.
This Phoenix-based water utility company might provide water to cities all across the country. But EPCOR President Joe Geisel is well aware of the problems with the valley's aging water infrastructure.
It spouts out of sprinklers and trickles down our reservoirs. But before it gets to you, as much as a third of this water is lost in the leaky pipelines of some Arizona cities.
It's a very large problem.
Joe Geisel is president of EPCOR Water, based in Phoenix.
Our infrastructure is more than 100 years old, and a lot of our utilities in Arizona are facing massive rebuilds to rebuild the infrastructure that was put in a number of years ago.
Geisel joined leaders from communities large and small, struggling to find funding for the natural resource.
Give us money or give us relief.
The goal is to prevent a water crisis like the one that crippled Flint, Michigan.
The health and safety of our children and families depends on a modern infrastructure that provides safe drinking water and assures clean rivers and streams.
Something that's crucial to the desert.
So rebuilding that infrastructure to prevent losses and perform better is very important to our state.
Local water main breaks continue to pose a challenge in the Public Works Department. Just yesterday, a 12-inch pipe burst in Scottsdale, obstructing traffic. In Washington, Katie Berry, Cronkite News.
From U.S. soccer to Capitol Hill, gender pay equity has been widely discussed recently. Washington, D.C. reporter Wafa Shahid shows us how Arizona legislators stack up on the issue.
In a perfect world, the workforce would be a gender-blind place, a place that resembles Representative Raul Grijalva's office, where 3 women occupy the top 4 paid positions on his staff.
It's so common to us and to me here that I didn't pay special notice to it. And that's probably the best thing you can say about it.
But Grijalva isn't the only Arizona legislator making sure women are getting their fair share. Representative Kristen Sinema also has 3 women in her top 4 positions, and overall, our legislators aren't doing too bad. We looked at the numbers and found that at least 1 female is in the top 4 highest paid position in all 11 congressional offices.
You know, your hard work and your drive will separate you from other people, not just your sex.
Even though only 3 of the 11 chiefs of staff are women, these 3 women were each paid over $37,000 last quarter. Not bad when looking at other chiefs of staff who have incomes ranging from $31,000 to $42,000 on the House side.
It's what makes Mr. Grijalva so important, right, and so impressive, because he's got women in those top slots, and that means that not only he probably doesn't have an equal pay problem in his office, but he also doesn't have a leadership gap either.
But now that you brought it up and asked me the question, it feels good.
In Washington, Wafa Shahid, Cronkite News.
The University of Arizona is getting ready to launch clinical trials of a new drug from Cuba, which is designed to treat diabetic lesions and could ultimately help people save limbs from the impact of the disease. Cronkite News reporter Maricela Ramirez is live in our Washington bureau after talking to researchers there today.
The message for the 40 or so people gathered here today was that a new drug could not only save money, it could save the 70,000 to 80,000 diabetics who become amputees every year.
Pain is a gift from God. It's a quote that most would question, except for diabetic patients like Henry Hughes, who can no longer feel pain due to a side effect of diabetes known as neuropathy.
but over time it's caused my feet and hands to develop neuropathy. I've had about 5 or 6 surgeries on both feet.
Hughes and others are excited about an experimental new drug from Cuba that has shown promise in healing foot ulcers in diabetic patients.
The Cubans have developed a product 10 years ago that has treated over 200,000 patients in 26 countries that has shown to have a 70 to 80% success rate in eliminating amputations in those patients with diabetic foot ulcers, chronic diabetic foot ulcers.
Anderson said his company hopes to begin clinical trials this year at the University of Arizona, among other sites. Patient testing is just one of the many steps for this drug to become FDA approved.
It's a silent and sinister syndrome, diabetes in general, and the foot in diabetes especially. So we're talking about just marrying a little bit of technology with some tenacity to make a difference and prevent amputations in our patients. And the great news is that we can do it.
The researchers here today pointed to this drug as one of the first gains to come out of the recent efforts to normalize relations between the United States and Cuba. Live in Washington, Maricela Ramirez, Cronkite News.
It's been an uphill battle for Obama's Supreme Court pick Merrick Garland since Senate Republicans have refused to consider him as a justice. But was this the case for Arizona Senator Jeff Flake? Lauren Clark in our Washington bureau was on the Hill when the two met.
Well, before Judge Garland can ever make it up these steps as Supreme Court justice, he has to get past the Senate. And today he had a series of meetings that were essential in this process.
We don't know what happened in the 30 minutes when federal judge Merrick Garland and Arizona Senator Jeff Flake met behind this door, but whatever it was, it didn't change Flake's mind. In a statement released by his office, Flake said he's declining to support Garland as a nominee.
There is an incredible level of obstructionism going on in the United States Senate right now. It's actually unprecedented to not hold hearings and not hold a vote for a Supreme Court nominee.
In the standoff since Justice Antonin Scalia's death, Flake is now one of a few Senate Republicans who's agreed to meet with Obama's Supreme Court candidate.
You know, it's great that Senator Flake is meeting with Merrick Garland. I hope that he'll tell Judge Garland that he's going to support vocally hearings and a vote.
But he's not one of the Republicans to support a vote or hearing for Garland. While his statement said he enjoyed the meeting, he agreed that the Senate is fully justified in waiting until the presidential election before proceeding to fill the seat.
Do your job! Do your job! Do your job!
Yesterday, a cadence of activists echoed the frustration of yet another Washington gridlock, and some simply just couldn't take it anymore.
One gigantic can of whoop ass! Anybody that stands in the way of giving Judge Garland the right to have his due process and to fill the seat.
Still, it's a long road ahead for Judge Garland, as some Republicans are not willing to make any decisions until they know who will be coming in to the White House. Reporting at the Supreme Court, Lauren Clark, Cronkite News.
1 in 5 women are sexually assaulted in college. Out of those women, more than 90% never report it. Today, the White House honored 10 students for joining this national conversation around the stigma of college rape. Cronkite News reporter Katie Beery talked with an Arizona native who was invited to the Capitol.
It's something that needs to be said. It's an ugly beast that needs to be looked in the face, addressed, and hopefully changed over time.
Phoenix native and University of Northern Colorado graduate Cody McDavis is talking about addressing the stigma behind rape in our nation's college campuses.
What they have to do is acknowledge that it's a real thing. They have to start saying it. They have to use the words that are consistent with sexual assault, rape, abuse.
Cody was just one of 10 students honored at the White House today for his work kickstarting the conversation around sexual assault in college campuses.
And no one is more proud than Cody's mother, Cindy.
It's kind of surreal. I never imagined this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for a parent to be able to do this with their child.
Really, the work is just beginning, right? This conversation still needs to continue. Just because we're here in D.C. doesn't mean anything has stopped. It doesn't mean anything has come to a conclusion. It's really just the start.
In Washington, Katie Beery, Cronkite News.
According to the Department of Justice, rape is the most underreported crime. If you or someone you know has been a victim of sexual assault, contact the Rape Crisis Hotline at 1-800-656-4673.
Also in Washington, some science students inspired by the tragedy of Arizona's Yarnell fire went to the White House Science Fair with a message of hope. Cronkite News reporter Samantha Witherwax has details on the new technology to save firefighters' lives.
It's almost 3 years later and thousands of miles away, but the impact of the Yarnell fire that killed 19 Arizona firefighters is still being felt throughout the country. The incident drove 4 high school students to develop a product aimed to save the lives of our firefighters.
Our firefighters are risking their lives every single day when they could be, better protected.
Savannah Kofer was hiking with her family in Arizona in 2013 when she saw smoke from wildfires. A short time later, she found out that 19 Arizona firefighters were surrounded and killed during a fire.
When I saw it at first, I was just shocked at first because I didn't know what exactly was happening, but it opened my eyes to see that there was an unmet need and something that could be valid for further investigation.
So she and 3 other students who met at a science fair investigated and discovered. The new fire armor technology uses an ice pack-like insulation that was inspired by Savannah's years of soccer.
So in the same way that the instant ice pack, the chemical reaction causes the ice pack to get cold, the aluminosilica hydrate fiber absorbs the heat from the environment.
And the difference?
Our fibers can provide up to 5 minutes of protection in a flash fire condition, which is really critical considering that the current fibers only last about 5 seconds.
After countless hours, the invention was a success, and now the students have applied for a patent. That success also brought the group to Washington for the White House Science Fair.
We are counting on all of you to help build a brighter future and for you to use your talents to help your communities and your country and the world. We will be with you every step of the way.
Reporting from Washington, Samantha Witherwax, Cronkite News.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. We are proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.